Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, man. How's it going today?
Well, it's okay. It's okay. It's been an interesting week. Uh, Here we are, middle of April already, and
It's going fast, isn't it?
this year's going pretty fast. We still talk about 2020, and we're like a third of the way into the next year, and really 2021 is I think turning out to be quite a year as well. At least
Yeah.
in my life personally, I spent some this week. As I was commenting beforehand, I was ill on Thursday morning,
Hmm.
and so I'm kind of my voice is a little down. So if I'm not as talkative this morning, you'll know why. But I got this cough, and then it's been getting worse, and
Yeah.
I'm taking this inhaler, and
How's it going for
anyway,
you?
so that's that.
Is it working?
I mean, I think it does make a difference, yeah. But
That's
my
good.
allergies have been so bad this year, and they figured out that my asthma's back. I haven't had a problem since I was 10 years old with asthma.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
they looked at my lungs because they did an X-ray and everything, and EKG and all these things on my chest. If you've ever had one, those little sticky
Oh yeah.
things all
Oh
over
yeah.
yourself, and
I get them every time I get my physical,
so
man.
I'm just thankful that it wasn't anything more serious.
Right.
But yes, it's been since I was 10 years old. It's kind of a weird thing not being able to breathe, but I'm better. I'm better.
I'm glad to hear that, man.
It's I was kind of lamenting actually all the news this week of all again we have shootings.
Yeah.
and we have police shootings, and I don't know. It's just kind of overwhelming. It's like I don't even know where to start, and I don't know. Where
Well,
should we start today? Where should we
I
start?
think I think of a lot of it. A lot of it comes down to, again, do we want to? I look at the second commandment: love. Love thy neighbor as thyself. We have gotten so far away from respect. And I just put a quote up yesterday that says that willful ignorance is what's destroying America right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Willful ignorance.
What do you mean by that? Like, give me an example of like
Well, I
willful ignorance,
I
I
actually
guess.
got it from a quote from I think it was Bakari Sellers. He mentioned that yesterday, and some of the things that we're seeing right now is complete ignorance. It is. It's because people will take a story or take something and spread it. People will react out of emotion, out of what they thought they heard or what they think is possibly not true because they have no idea what they're talking about. Um, a prime example of willful ignorance is the young man in New York City who got arrested for having an AK-47 open in Times Square. The willful ignorance was that, first of all, he knew that he would be looked upon differently being a black man with AK-47 in the middle of Times Square. That's number one. You're not going to go down in the. I mean, even if it was an open carry state, you're going to be looked at differently,
Yeah,
especially in
yeah.
in the raft of all these shootings that you've seen. 147 shootings in the past month. So, um,
147. Wow.
in the past month, I'm sorry, in this year, it's been 47, 45 or 47 in the past month. 147 since January 1st.
What
So,
is going on with people? What is it?
well,
Is it that like people are like frustrated and they're like, you know, now they're going outside and they're taking out their frustrations on
well,
people and
I,
just like,
a lot of people are probably already mad during COVID. They were already pissed. You
yeah,
know
they're
what I'm
already pissed, and so now that they're getting out more, are they just taking it out on each other and people, former employees?
It could
Um,
have been whatever was going on in your mind before the pandemic, probably escalated during the pandemic. This guy in Indianapolis, we're going to talk about him a little bit later, but he was a former worker who
yep.
came back. I'm like, what the heck? Did you just wait for the right time? I mean, I don't know. We still don't know what was on his mind when this happened. But I mean,
A young
outside
guy
of,
too, young guy.
I
Man.
mean, you look at it from all aspects of even the police shootings. I don't look at it as something that's escalated. I look at police shootings as something that's always been here. We have more and more evidence now of it.
So
You
you
know,
think that it's just that we have the evidence of it now, and it just seems like
for police
um,
shootings,
they're more they're more prevalent.
for police shootings, I
Okay.
think it's just there because you have body cams, you have the cell phone footage, you have eyewitnesses, you have people, and you know what else is? What I remember a time where people didn't get involved; they would just stand back. Um, Even if they saw the cops, arresting somebody, beating up pretty bad, your automatic thought was he did something and he deserved that beating he got.
Okay.
Well, since Rodney King, it is that perspective has changed. People don't feel that way because they saw it from that footage there. That was the first video footage that we can think
Hmm.
of where we saw this happening. And but then again, it wasn't easy access to have a video camera like that. Over the years, as technology has changed, that technology is more accessible to us, and you see it. You can't. Your eyes don't deceive what you saw. You may not know all the details before or after,
Yeah. Yeah.
but what you saw wasn't justified in that. And so I don't think police shootings have escalated. I don't think police shootings are more um, shown to the public. Not just the shootings, whether it's any type of abuse of force, is now shown to the public. And when you look at all these different cases, each one has its own dynamic to it.
Uh-huh.
And the question is, if a person is a criminal and your job is to apprehend a criminal, not to kill the criminal, your job is to apprehend the criminal. You are a police officer. And I heard this one police officer say this. Actually, we talked about um, Carrielle Horn. She's the one who turned in her colleague for, I think it was Buffalo Police Department. I can't remember what police department, but she turned him in for a chokehold, a legal
Yeah,
chokehold on a
yeah. Well,
person.
she tried to break it up. Yeah,
Yeah, and she was fired.
yeah.
And he finally gave her a pension, and reversed everything after 15 years. But the point I'm making with that is she spoke up, and it's so sad there had to be a woman. Not saying that women aren't strong, but it's sad that it had to be a woman because we didn't have women police officers for that's something that's a recent in the last 20 years, right? You see more women police officers,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
maybe a little longer. This his history of men officers, but it was a woman that had to speak up, is what I'm saying. A woman had to speak up. A woman had to intervene. I'm not saying other men haven't, but she did and lost her job because
Yeah.
she spoke up. So, getting back to the prevalence of what's going on, she made a comment. She said, "These are weak officers."
Hmm.
Basically, that they shouldn't be police officers.
Yeah.
If
She's
you're
right.
supposed
She's
you're
right.
supposed to put your life on the line as a police officer.
Hmm.
You're stepping in to protect the community, and you have police officers, at least at a period of time, had something that was different about them that made them want to be a police officer. They was willing
Hmm.
to go into danger. Well, she made a point was that that's not what we see now. And the same thing with did you hear Pat Robertson's comment, his interview? Pat
No.
Robertson, I'm not a big fan of where that happened. Unless you pull that up. Pat Robertson, I'm not a big fan of his or hasn't been, but he was saying these are clowns. They're not getting paid enough. And I'm gonna find that interview. They're not getting paid enough to do their job, but yet they're underqualified and they're not the finest of the finest that we're putting on the police force. And then he made a point to say that Derek Chauvin should be thrown up under the jail. Um, he mentioned about the military officer they got
Yeah.
Navarro. They
They got pulled over.
got pepper sprayed.
Hmm.
And Pat Robertson, I know I'm crunching in your ear, man, with this cough
So
drop. I
here,
have
I mean, so I'm bringing this up here, in a surprise to some viewers. Televangelist Pat Robertson on the 15th, was just 2 days ago, on
yeah,
Thursday, criticized police over the fatal shooting of Dante Wright.
yeah,
Robertson's rebuke surprised some because he's known for being a Christian conservative. Um, so that
yeah.
would surprise me as well. See, I make it a policy to really just ignore what he says. So I don't
No,
that's not
but
even on my radar. So
this
he's
was good though.
he said Robertson said now how she made the difference where she shot the poor guy to death. This is what I thought was my taser, and if you can't tell the difference with the feel of those things, it's crazy, he says.
Yeah, I mean, but it was interesting because to see him say it like he did, and so many people have played this.
He, he went on
But
to decry also, as you mentioned, the officer that was pulled over and pepper sprayed. So yeah,
here
I'm
I have a
surprised that he said anything about it. Yep.
yeah, I have a video for it right here. You can check this out
The video of what?
of him talking.
Dominant side, but it's not that way. They have to cross when they have on different. So you actually have to reach across yourself. You feel the difference. Yeah, it's definitely. There's just no comparison. As I say, they're not making tasers in this yellow color anymore. They're making in black. They're making them yellow. Now, how she made the difference was she shot that poor guy to death, saying, "This is what I thought. This is what I thought was my taser." And if you can't tell the difference in the feel of those things, it's crazy. Anyhow, she deserves, but I am pro-police, folks. I think we need the police. We need their servants, and they do a good job. But if they don't stop this onslaught, they cannot do this. The police in Virginia picked up a lieutenant in the Army and began to give him trouble. And our state police are highly trained. But why they don't stop this? And this thing is going on in Minnesota, but the Derek Chauvin, I mean, they ought to put him under the jail. He has caused so much trouble by kneeling on the death of George Floyd. It's just, I mean, on his neck. It's just terrible what's happening. And the police, why don't they open their eyes to what the public relations are? They've got to stop this stuff. Maybe they need more training.
So that was
That
very
wasn't.
interesting. That was the first time that probably the first and last time that we'll hear Pat Robertson on the show. Just to let you guys know. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he'll have something to say more again. Here's Joshua Edwards commenting on Facebook. The woman should be charged for involuntary manslaughter, but Dante should not be made a martyr when you have a warrant for violent crimes and you run bad things happen. Well, the difference
What
is
were
that
the violent
there
crimes?
wasn't
It was
the
misdemeanors.
warrant was not for a violent crime. The warrant was for a misdemeanor. Now,
Yeah.
I'm gonna admit something here. I had a warrant for an unpaid traffic ticket. So you know that I had forgotten to pay, like over a year. Okay, so you find that out, and that's something that is a misdemeanor, and it could be me that pulled over and arrested. So it was not a violent offense. So we
No.
just want to make that clear.
And I want to address something with Josh right quick, because not only Josh, but everyone who feels this way, because someone speaks out about a shooting like this, no one is defending the crime of the person that got killed, the victim here who had killed. No
Mhm.
one is defending. I've said it many a times that Dante Wright was in the wrong for pulling away. Dante Wright had a warrant out. Dante Wright, whatever it was, he didn't take care of his business. Now, for what I understand from his brother, that he didn't realize that he had a warrant out. He don't
Mhm.
think he
Mhm.
realized he had a warrant. I'm not sure. But it wasn't about whether he committed a crime or not. The question is, why was he shot? And the reason why I say that, Josh, is because we see this countless times again where this doesn't happen to everyone, where everyone isn't put out there like that, to where how I want to say it, everyone isn't treated the way Dante Wright was treated, the way he got shot. And if you feel that it was involuntary manslaughter, it was an accident, why does she even have her weapon out? If she read the fact that he had a warrant and she could read what kind of warrant he had, it was a misdemeanor warrant, she would have known he was not a violent person, or he
Mhm.
wasn't someone
Yeah.
who you should have your guard up for being
Yeah,
violent.
we talked
And
about this on Thursday. That
yeah, but secondly,
what was the expectation? What
but
was their expectation when they pulled him over? Their
I don't
expectation,
know.
the reason why she had the weapon drawn is because she expected him to be a problem, to be maybe violent. So,
Well,
like you said,
that's the problem was with her, because why didn't the other officers have their weapon out? They didn't have their weapons out. She was the one who had the weapon out. So what was her alertness? What was alerting her to pull her weapon out?
I don't know. Maybe
So
we'll hear about that at a trial.
and so those are the things where I say that that's not, and this to show you that this doesn't happen every day. 'Cause we just showed the video where the guy whipped the crap out of two cops with their own billy club and stole their car. But to show you that this stuff is not, that police know exactly what they're doing and who they're doing it to. I want you to see this video right here. And this shows you right now that the officers do have the ability to have discipline when they're ready to, when they have the ability, when they can shoot someone, or when they
Yeah.
can, physically abuse someone. They have the ability to shoot someone whenever they want to, and they have the ability to withhold discipline, like you've seen them do many a time. So I want to show you this video. You let me know what your opinion is about this, Josh. I'm calling you out today because you made a comment really without really thinking about what you said.
Oh. Oh my God.
Do you see the one officer with the gun?
Oh, hell no. The cop is on there. Oh.
Look at this. Look at the cop with the gun right there on the right.
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
my
He
God.
could shoot at any time.
Wow.
Oh, hell
They,
no.
they let them do
There's
that.
a guy on the side
The
on the
cop is on
driver's
there!
side window.
Oh.
Now, I want you guys to.
Oh my God.
For those who don't know, do you remember the incident in Dallas? It was some kids leaving a party. The kids were. Hold on, this thing is still playing. I'm trying to mute the video of it.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. I don't hear it.
No, I hear it. I hear it on my end. But the whole point I'm making is, do you there's some kids that were, man, I can't talk with this dang on all I hear this lady saying the cop is on there. And I'm getting it. It is like it's just loud in my ear. That's all. I'm trying
Get
to
rid of
mute
it.
it.
Get rid of the window. So here's a comment I want to
And so,
while you're messing with that.
yeah,
So I have to ask what you mean by this. That there's a problem with there's a problem with the news in this country. Um, I have to ask for more information about that, about what you mean there, Josh.
yeah, that
Go
was,
ahead.
these are
Go ahead. You were saying
blanket
something.
statements. Oh yeah. The Jordan, his name was Jordan. I can't think of his last name, but he was killed in Dallas. He was leaving a party. It was gunshots at a party. He was leaving. The cops shot through the back of the window as the car was driving away and shot him in the head. These kids were leaving the party because they heard gunshots and they wanted to escape and just leave. Like, wait, this is getting out of hand. Let's get out the way. And the cops said that they shot, although the car was going away from them, they
Hmm.
thought the car was a threat. That's why they
Okay.
shot. The car
So
could be used as a weapon. So why wasn't this video we just saw? Why wasn't that guy handled differently when that car was actually used as a weapon?
yeah, there's no consistency here. I mean, sometimes police shoot, sometimes they do not. Like the video that we showed on Thursday, um, the guy was beating up police, and they would have been justified to pull out their weapons
Yeah,
and to put him down because they
here
were
it
being
is.
insulted. And then they pulled away he pulled away in a police car. He just
Yeah,
stole the police car, and they did not shoot. So
yeah.
there's other options
Here's that
um,
video right here, Darren.
that
We
the
got it.
police can do other than shooting.
Yeah, we have it right here.
Jerry, do what they say. Jerry, do what they say. Jerry, do what they say. Jerry. 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 You're gonna get hurt, Jerry, if you don't stop.
Help!
You're gonna get a charge, Jerry. Stop it. Stop, Jerry. Jerry, you're gonna get in trouble. Jerry, they're gonna hurt you. Jerry. Jerry, don't do it. Jerry, don't do it.
So
Oh, there you go. I mean,
who looks like a fool, Jerry or the cops? You know what I'm saying? So it's
I'm
like,
sorry to laugh, but
so when
I
people
just,
come at me
I
with
mean,
this
it's serious.
garbage about like
Serious, but I
George
have to
Floyd,
laugh.
people say George Floyd is a martyr. They put him as a martyr. No, he's not a hero. George Floyd had a criminal history. Yes, he was a drug addict, yes. No one's defending his actions, but we are defending the fact that he should not have been killed the way he was killed.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
Conte Wright should not have been killed the way he. We could go through the long list of people. So when you come with this bull crap about being a martyr, man, save it. Save it. Let's stick to the facts of the issue right now of how a person gets killed. We just saw 2 videos of the cop looking ridiculous because they withdrew. No, even go even deeper. The insurrection on the Capitol we just had on the 6th, we now have proof that they were told not to use excessive force. Do not use excessive force on these protesters. Why? I put it out there because they were white protesters. They were white rioters. Debate me on it if you want to. Anybody debate me on it if that wasn't the case. Now let's stop the garbage about selective narratives you want to put out there when someone is killed. It could be unarmed, armed, or whatever. It's not about what they were doing or how they did it. If you were in the act of being violent and you get shot by the cops, you will never hear an argument out of me. Never. It's the case of someone who is not violent. Now, that kid in Chicago, Toledo, he had a gun. He was running. The cops thought he might have had a gun. That's objective. I'm not going to argue with that. I know that when he turned around, they showed the last video, he didn't have a gun in his hand. He had his hands up. He was trying to comply. That's an argumental thing because any kid, 3 o'clock in the morning, what are you doing out in the streets at 3 o'clock in the morning? Where's the relationship with your parents that your mom had been trying to reach you for 72 hours and couldn't reach you? So you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to argue with that. That's something that I feel bad for both sides. He was running around with people that he knew he shouldn't have been running around with. Those are the consequences that happen of being around the wrong people. I'm not defending him, either one of the people. I'm just saying I'm going to see how this play out. But there are people out here that you see with your own eyes should not have been killed. So I'm tired of martyr talk. No one's making nobody a martyr. I'm sorry. I went off on that. It's just I'm tired of the garbage. I'm exhausted.
No, I agree with you. I mean, they're not martyrs, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't unjust.
Right. That's the whole point. It's just frustrating, man. It's just people tend to not want to stick with what the facts are and want to put in assumptions and things. You can't even give me a reason why that cop had her gun out. You can't even give me a reason why after 26 years she makes this kind of mistake. A mistake of saying, I thought it was a taser. Get real, man. Get real, dude. Stop making excuses.
Well, you brought it up, but Toledo in Chicago. This came out yesterday. The video for this came out yesterday.
I apologize for getting that heated, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I wanted to show this here in our show. Many of you have seen it, but we'll look at this again, and we'll talk about this, what we see here. This is halfway through the video when the police gets out of the car. I think I might. Okay, here it is.
Hey, come here, head. Stop it! Stop it!
Yeah, so that it happened so quickly. See how quickly that happened in real time without the slow-mo or anything like that?
See, in that situation, I can't. Okay, I got a comment from Josh here. It says, it's a good talk. Everyone has their own opinion. I guess it goes back to my point about the news. Something I would discuss with you one day on air, maybe. Hard to have an even debate when you got the mics and videos to prove your point, and I can't present my own evidence to back mine up. It's not about evidence, Josh. It's the evidence is something that comes out as the story goes on. You get more and more information. We're talking about the disparity of people who get shot. That's the argument. It's not about each case individually all the time. It's the disparity.
Mhm,
It's the
mhm.
disparity to show you that over the course of our history, there's been an imbalance of how policing has been done. That's where it's at. This is something that you will never understand, probably. You'll never understand it. It's obvious you'll never understand it because you want to debate about these points instead. Let's talk about the disparity is the main issue. That's the argument that we're having. That's why you see protesting. That was why you saw the protesting of Jonathan Petlin the other day. He thought that he can walk out in the street in 2021 after everything that's happened over the past year and cuss out another young man who we find out now that will have mental health issues that I didn't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But the whole point was he thought it was okay to do that.
Hmm.
And what happened? Black Twitter lit his behind up.
Hmm.
They put it out there so quick that he
Hmm.
was arrested the same day or the next day. It got out there so quick the protesters was at his house. Now, I don't agree with the vandalizing. They vandalized his house. That was not cool.
No, that's not
But
cool.
this is where we are right now. We are not taking it anymore, is what I'm saying. People are going to be starting to be held accountable, whether you like it or not, whether law enforcement like it or not, whether politicians like it or not. People are going to be held accountable.
Yep, yep.
They're not going to. That punk dude had to move out of his house because he's a punk. He couldn't even stand and face the people that he when he talked about this young man, he couldn't even face the crowd because he was embarrassed because he knew it was wrong.
Yep.
Then he's getting disciplined by the military because he knew it was wrong. This is what I'm saying. Look at those things that are going on in our country, and you wonder why people protest. You say the news is biased. The news is putting out there what's really happening. Now they may twist their story here and there, but I haven't shown you one thing from CNN or MSNBC because that's what you're talking about. I know you are. So, and I'm not just picking on you, Josh. Don't take it personal. We've been friends on Facebook for a long time. This is for people in general who want to bring this argument up. It's over. It's exhausting.
Hmm.
Stick with the real stuff that you see in our world. Why did we have all those protests last summer? It wasn't because George Floyd got shot or got killed, rather. It wasn't because people want to protect George Floyd. It was because we're tired of the garbage.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm tired of it. So I apologize for targeting you, Josh. It wasn't you, man. Truthfully, it wasn't. It was just you picked a nerve where I've been like on edge with people all week with this of making excuses for just saying, let's look at this disparity of what's going on. You could probably ask 5 black people out of 10. Well, ask 10 black people, and probably 5 or more would tell you a story similar to this, where
Hmm.
you probably don't have those stories, or
No,
maybe
that's
not
true.
as
That's
many.
true. Yeah.
That's why it's exhausting. Sorry, man.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, here we
So
are
Dan,
again. We have a comment from Dan Bailey, Daniel
go
Bailey.
ahead, click it, because I was trying to click it too.
With all the devices a policeman has for weapons, their fists, tasers, handcuffs, nightsticks, mace, why will the first weapon they reach for in the black and brown community be their guns? Watch the TV show Cops. White people spit, kick, punch, run, and never get shot. Excellent point. I guess if they would have done that, if there would have been any kind of excessive force by the police, would probably not made the cut on the Cops show. They probably would have not shown that. That's just my guess.
There was a white guy that got a white guy shot a cop
bad
here.
happened.
So white guy shot a cop here, man, Denton County. Was it Denton County or Burleson? Was it No, was it Denton or Burleson? He shot a cop. He got away. Him and another guy carjacked a lady, shot her, and went to somewhere near some part of Texas near Oklahoma. They went and got him, arrested him. They knew he was armed. They didn't knock his door down. They didn't do a midnight raid at 3 a.m. You know what I'm saying? They went and arrested him peacefully and took him in.
That's
We
the
don't
difference.
we don't know if he had Burger King on the way or not. But the point was, just like Breonna Taylor, they bust in her house in the middle of the night, guns blazing. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this dude gets arrested.
Well,
Anyway, I'm sorry.
I think it's obvious. Here's the double standard we have in this country. I mean, when did the people get arrested? All these people get arrested from January 6th. When did they get arrested? Were they arrested January 6th?
Okay.
How many people were arrested on January 6th? How many?
That day I can't remember.
That
it wasn't
day,
a lot.
that day.
It wasn't a lot.
They're all
Josh,
arrested. They're all arrested once they return home after investigations, peacefully in their homes. just like you said.
I apologize, Josh, if you think I'm making prejudiced assumptions. I didn't bring race into this whatsoever, and what your assumptions were. When you say the news, I assume, yes, that you're talking about liberal news that people call liberal news. I don't make a difference between liberal and conservative, but I'm just,
Mainstream media.
yeah. If that's what you was referring to when I said CNN and MSNBC, I apologize if you thought that I was making a racial stock comment or anything like that, because it wasn't. It wasn't prejudice toward people who watch certain news. It was just that I just showed you articles from local news with these comments. So it had nothing to do with what we watch on cable news. So I just wanted to make that clear that, again, I'm not targeting you with my comments. You just happen to be bringing stuff out that I've been holding in for the past week. And it just kind of just hit a head because it's been stressful, because at any day my son could be one of these. I have two sons. One of them could be one of these guys because they decide to mouse back at a police officer, or not actually that, are actually afraid when the cops come up behind them, and they're automatically respond out of instinct or
Hmm.
out of a impulse that if a cop comes, they may not make it home that day, so they
Yeah,
run,
yeah,
they get away, even if they did nothing wrong.
yeah.
Um, I've heard young boys, like teenage kids right now, like in the past 2 weeks, say they're scared to get stopped by the cops.
Wow.
They're asking the question, if I get stopped, should I stay or should I run? Because I might not make it home, even if
Yeah.
they did nothing wrong. I've heard people
Wow.
say that this week. They're that scared that they don't know what's going to happen. Even if they did nothing wrong, they just happen to get stopped. That's why I'm on edge with this, because it's real. It's real. And just frustrating right now.
So what do you make of the video that we saw with the boy that was killed, the 13-year-old? It's very hard for me to see what is actually going on. I mean, they have these little arrows on the video that point to like where the firearm was and how that it's at it was next to the fence where he threw it, and they have to like point it out, the big red arrow. It's hard for me to tell what's going on, and it happened all so quickly. But it did look like he was surrendering. It did look like he's surrendering. Part of the video that we watched that we did not see was the mother being interviewed. Obviously, she's upset about it, and it just seems like here we go again with another unjustified, violent end um, to a police encounter.
Yeah. Um, the thing with that Adam Toledo, as I mentioned earlier, is the activity he was involved with earlier. Um, he ran.
Hmm.
He did have a gun in his hand, from what we understand. At some point, he dropped it. I th- I do think the cop shot too quickly, but I feel also the cop will get off on this one. It would be a justified shooting.
Hmm.
But the thing that may impact that is that that police officer has had three abuse of force complaints in the last 5 years. So he has a history already in a short period of time as a police officer. I'm not sure how long he's been an officer, but in the last 5 years, he's had three complaints of excessive force or use of force. We got to see how that plays out, because Darren Chauvin had, I think it was 18 or more complaints over his career.
Yep.
And so those, if you notice, was never brought up during the trial, which I questioned at first, but I understand it now, because when you start looking at the history of the police officer, we're going to start, you're going to question it the same way people are questioning why you're looking at George Floyd history. So this particular cop here, will they look into his history as a cop? I don't know. But I think it's going to be more so justified doing for the fact that of how quick. I don't think he realized the kid dropped the gun by the time he dropped it and he turned around.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think the cop realized he dropped it. But one thing the cop should have done was made some time. Well, he did make the commands to stop or I'll shoot. He did say that, so I can't even go
Yeah. He
there.
did say that.
He did say that. So it's hard. That's a hard one, man. That's going to be a hard one, and you're never gonna hear me um, defend a person who got shot by the police officer in that situation, because I don't know all the exact facts of it.
Hmm.
And the cops could have maybe used a taser at some point when he was chasing him. Maybe, I'm not sure if he was too far to use a taser. I'm not sure, but
It looked like he was kind of far to use a taser, to me.
Yeah.
But my question is the same question the mother had in that interview with the media. It's like, well, why do we always shoot to kill? Why are we shooting to inflict the maximum impact? We're
Well,
shooting in the chest, we're shooting in the head. We can't. We Is there no other alternative to this? I mean,
like,
like we say, life and death this is permanent. Okay, there's
yeah,
no like redo for this. There's no like oops. Okay, this is
yeah,
beyond oops. Like this is somebody's life we're talking about. So there's one
yeah.
thing to make a mistake. There's another thing when someone's life is at hand. I mean, why can't they aim for the legs? I don't
Well,
understand.
it's a couple things there. It's harder to shoot someone accurately in the
Yeah,
leg
it is,
than
but
hit.
they're trained. But they're
No, no,
trained.
no. That's not the point. A bullet doesn't come out of a pistol straight. It never comes out straight. It's going to have a wobble wiggle. So if you shoot it at the mass of the body, that's the short target. If it hits you in the head, that's not always saying they were aiming for the head all the time. But what
No,
I'm saying is that the center mass is the most short target. Now, if you kill a person with that shot, that's not always the case either. You can shoot somebody, they just bleed out. It wasn't meant like they shot them in the heart and immediately kill them on the spot.
yeah,
I understand why when you pull your gun out, you're never trained to pull out your gun to harm somebody. You pull out your gun to stop somebody. That's just fact. I'm just being real with you. There's not a circle around. You can't like put a gray asterisk beside it. It's not
but
like
people ought to realize that it can kill. This is what guns are designed to do.
you're
They're
looking.
designed to harm,
I
and they're
agree.
designed to kill.
I
They
agree.
are designed to kill.
So the question is, why was Adam Toledo running with a gun in his hand? Why did Adam Toledo have a gun in his hand at 13 years old?
Yeah, and it was 2:30 in the morning.
You
I
see
mean,
what I'm
that's all.
saying?
That's all legitimate.
So
That's all
that's
legitimate,
that's
though.
legitimate. So we're talking about guns. So the Adam Toledo is the type of person that we're trying to keep guns out of the hands of. An underage person, the person he was with, the 21-year-old. I'm not sure if he had a record or a felony record before. If he did, he didn't need a gun. Those are the people that we're trying to get the guns out of the hands of.
Yep.
So the officer in that situation, I can't really say it was justified or not. All I know is that he threw the gun down, he turned around with his hands up. It was a split second decision.
Yeah, it was
The
really
split
fast. It's really,
the,
really
the
fast.
split second decision. Now I'm gonna give you two differences here. Adam Toledo versus Tamir Rice. Both of them happened in mere seconds
Yep.
of getting shot. Adam Toledo was running from the police and they asked him to stop. Tamir Rice didn't even know the cops were coming. See the difference? He's playing with a toy gun. Someone called the police. The cop get out of. He shoots him as he's stepping out of the off out of the cruiser, and shoots him.
Hmm.
Adam Toledo knew fully aware who was chasing him. He could have tossed that gun a long time ago. He could have tossed that gun, and ran to let the cop and throw it in the street or something. To let the cop see I don't have the gun no more. Drop it.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's things also. His mind is not there because you're running because you're scared, and I'm not sure if the conversation is true about him being part of the Latin Kings or not. So now he's worried about the police. Then he's worrying about his homies. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm.
like
Mm.
you're in the middle there.
Mm.
It's like he's 13. His brain even developed yet to even
No,
think
it's
about
not.
this type of altercation. And so it's just a rough situation. It's sad. But yeah, like people say, why do you always shoot first in our communities? Because you don't shoot white people at the same rate.
Yep. Yep. That's true. I mean, it's true.
You don't. You don't do it.
Statistically true. We have seen it on video after video after video. So Derek Chauvin is not going to testify. Not surprised at all by that. We've heard 10 days of testimony. We heard medical evidence. The defense is trying to throw the kitchen sink out there as far as any kind of other reason why he might have died, might have passed away. Just throwing out possibilities to see if something sticks, because all they need is one juror to perhaps
Yeah.
say, well, It could have been something else other than the knee on his neck. So we will see. We will see. And there will be millions of eyes and ears listening and watching for the result of this verdict.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's gonna be tough, man.
it's going to
Again,
be.
that's
They were trying to throw out like carbon monoxide poisoning. All kinds of things.
I think that at the end of the day on this one, it's gonna make a difference in how policing. I told you that before. It's gonna be a difference in how policing is done. Um, Either he gets convicted, and America will, across the board, look more seriously at their issues. Um, if he is acquitted or is a hung jury or whatever, it's going to be chaos because no one's gonna
Yeah, it's
take
going to be
that
bad.
well. Um, then what's going to happen also is the police are going to be more on guard. Again, I go back to Pat Robertson when he said, you have people that are in the police force that don't need to be there. They're not qualified to be police officers. They're not the finest of the finest. They're not recruiting well. All these issues are out there. One thing that was brought up was that officers should represent the makeup of officers should represent the community that they're policing. A lot of times, or in majority, or somewhere,
Hmm.
it should be some representation of that community. When there's not, there are disparities that happen. Not only that, a lot of these police officers don't live in the community that they're policing. Now, the issue with that is in certain communities, you may not have qualified people to become police officers.
Yeah.
So that's an issue. I mean, that's going to be the asterisk mark, that community didn't have people who wanted to be police officers or enough of them. But I think that community should be made up somewhat of um, I think it should be diversified in every community, some diversity in every community of police officers. But I
Okay.
feel that especially in the black community, you don't see enough representation in police officers. And I think a lot of people just, for a long time, didn't want to be police officers because of the bad name, the bad reputation. I know
Mm,
people
mm.
personally who got out of the left the force because there was so much disparity. They couldn't take it as a police officer to see the
I'd like to
discrimination that
interview
was
one of
going
those
on.
people to talk to
I
them.
would
It'd be
I
an
would love
interesting
to.
interview.
I don't know if they will or not because they're worried about the backlash. A
Mm,
lot of them won't.
really? Okay.
I mean, like I said, we just saw the interview with the one, Carrie Horn, who talked about what happened to her. She
Yeah.
got fired. So anyway, man, Derek Chauvin, man, I think he's done, in my opinion. And if he is acquitted, his life is ruined forever. He's ruined, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I pray that, he give his life to the Lord if he hasn't already, man, but he'd be ruined, man. Um, Thanks. I want to thank Josh and Dan Bailey for joining the show today and
Yeah.
giving us their
Speaking of
comments.
Josh particular, like if you want to be on the show as a guest, I'd be open for that. What do you say?
Yeah, anytime, man. Anybody's always people are always welcome on our show, man. They're always welcome. And Josh, like I said, we've been friends for a while, man, for a long
Okay.
time. And I'm thinking of Josh, if he's not right, are you Miss Edwards' son, the school teacher? I think you are. Uh, if I can remember this correctly, I think you and my son went to school together. I can't really remember. I think so. Um, but anyway, life life changes over a period of time of how you see things and perspective of things.
Okay.
I've watched more people recently are really actually surprised at how many these shootings we've seen, like police, civilian shootings and things. They're actually like, wow, like this is something new, or this is something that started off all of a sudden. Is because Josh mentioned about the news because the news is showing it more. But I want to let him know also, and everyone else out there, where do you think the news is getting this footage from? They're getting this. It's not like they have their reporters out there on the story.
Yeah.
They get these first report stories from the citizens, these American citizens who
Yeah.
are present and filming this. The other thing about this, if you listen to the trial, a Derek Chauvin trial, the it was two people. The store clerk, the young man, He said he videotaped some of the video of what was going on with George Floyd,
Yeah.
and he said he deleted it. He deleted it. And then you had another bystander who said he was recording and went across the street to record both ankles. And then when he got home, what did he do? He deleted it. You know what both of them said? Why they deleted? They didn't want to be in the middle of any problems.
Mm.
You know why?
Wow.
They didn't want retaliation.
No.
They didn't want any type of pushback from the police. We don't know if they've had records or prior history before of illegal things. They didn't want anything to do with the police because
Nope.
they didn't want any pushback. It wasn't
Do you
going to be
blame them for that? Do you think that's
no, I don't blame them
legitimate?
because that's history. That is
Okay.
shown history. That telling on the police can cause repercussions, especially if they get off.
So
So
this just recalled in my memory as we were looking back this week on some of the news that you saw the guy in South Carolina that was pushing the African American
yeah,
person on the on in his neighborhood, uh, was threatening him, getting in his face,
yeah,
pushing him over,
hmm
or trying to push him over, and I think it was his wife who was recording it, and you got to wonder, it's like, well, wait a minute, this is um, this isn't making you guys look good.
mm,
So in that case, I'm not sure why she would have shared that at all, because it's not favorable to you. It's not favorable to you, to your family, your husband, the way that he's acting,
yeah,
because as it turns out, he was in the wrong in this case. So I don't know what you were doing filming it.
yeah. And I think some of the people, I guess there's a history of this young man in the community, and I guess there were some issues in the previously over the last couple of weeks, I guess, in that neighborhood while he's walking. I'm not sure, but it did come out yesterday that he had mental health issues, and I'm not sure if I still got that story here, but he did have some mental health issues that he was dealing with, and I'm not saying that's an excuse for whatever he did prior that was wrong. I think that everything needs to be put into perspective here of what's the purpose of calling someone out of your name and what does it mean you don't belong here? What does that mean? I've questioned that comment. You don't belong here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand it because I'm gonna give you a reason why I say that. When I moved into my neighborhood, me and my wife drove around several times.
Mm.
I talked to
Yeah, you
neighbors in my
talked about
neighborhood.
that. Yeah. Hmm.
I talked to neighbors in my community just to see what it was like. I question like, I want to know, am I gonna be safe here? So I asked people, I asked black people, I asked white people, I asked Hispanic people, am I going to be safe here? Flat out. Oh yeah, it's a
Yeah,
pretty
you
nice
said that.
neighborhood,
I
pretty cool.
remember you talking about that. Yeah,
That's how
it's
real it
interesting.
is.
So
Yeah,
what were some of the answers that you got for that? I'm just curious. Talk
people
about
said it
that if
was a
you
nice
can.
neighborhood. It's been pretty cool. I
Uh-huh.
haven't had it. They'll say like, well, me personally, I haven't had any problems,
Okay.
and I've been here going on 3 years to be November, and I haven't had any problems. There
Do you
are,
have any? Do you have diversity in your community?
yes, it wasn't like it's growing diversity. We just started a diversity and inclusion committee here that's getting a lot of pushback from old school people who's been here in my community, most of their lives. And at some point, these surrounding areas were once sundown towns. So those same people live in
Mm,
some of them same people, generation after generation, are still in this area, you know. And so they're pushing back. It's like, why do we need diversity? Why do we need to have this committee? Well, the committee is to keep people in check a lot of times. And like the mayor said at one time, if you don't like it, move. Um, the city is
jeez.
growing. We're like one of the top five. We're one of the top five fastest growing communities, either in Texas or in the country rather. It's really growing pretty quick. And the thing about it is that some people don't like the growth. They don't like different
Yeah, you
people
don't like
moving in.
change. Yeah.
They don't
Hmm.
like change. Well, the thing about it is that you don't have to make your comments toward groups of people that are coming in, whether you're a minority by ethnicity, whether your sexual preference, whether whatever it may be. Just say I don't like the growth of the city. We like the old school, the small town feel. I can accept that. I even wrote a post about it. I appreciate and respect your decision that you rather to keep the town small where everybody knows everybody. I understand
Okay.
that. I
Okay.
really understand that. But I also feel that you're by not accepting growth, your community is not going to prosper
No, that's
financially.
true. That's true. Yeah.
Money comes into the state as your city grows. The different things will come into your city. I just realized that we're close to like 20,000 now. And when you get to 20,000 or more people, you're allowed to get bigger companies willing to come into your community.
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
So, I mean,
Josh
how
want
do
to
you
know.
feel about that? Like people
Josh is
that
one of. He just
on
mentioned.
purpose
Oh, sorry.
try to move somewhere where they can get what they're used to. If they're used to a small town and their neighborhood changes, they will try to find something else that they feel better suits them. Um, but yeah, I mean, I mean, I get that. I get that. I get that, I guess. Um, but you have to admit that there's like a race. Um, it hints of sort of a racist attitude, though, don't you think? If somebody says that, well, the neighborhood isn't like what it used to be, where too many new people are moving in.
Well, definitely.
There's always sort of an undertone there, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely that because people say that I've heard it from people that told me this that when black people move into the community goes down. What makes the community go down? There's proof proven that when people move out of a community, there's businesses also move out of the community. I'm watching a series right now on Amazon called Them. Um, it's like part true, part I guess fictional, but it shows the history of a family moving from Georgia, I think North Carolina rather, to Los Angeles, California,
Wow.
and moved into Compton, California in the 50s, where it was a
Wow.
nice
Okay.
a nice pleasant suburb, majority white. And I've had this discussion with a person in particular that went to school with us. I
Okay.
talked about how redlining is done and how um, real estate companies and mortgage companies will purposely um, do things in their writing on the documents on the contracts to not allow certain groups of people in their communities. And this person argued with me. Well, this movie shows this how this is happening. This text was saying how Negroes aren't allowed in this community. You can't own, buy, or sell in this community. And this family moves into the community, but they say, "Oh, this doesn't matter anymore." And they show you how they raise the interest rate on the homes of these families. And it shows how the white residents were moving out of the community from this one
Hmm.
black family. He was
Mm.
an engineer. He had a great
Wow.
career, but they moved out and they tortured this family. Just kept harassing them and harassing them. So it's like I'm in like episode 6 or 7, and it's interesting of how a community goes from a good community to a bad community, and the whole city is involved. The whole city is involved in the corruption. So to bring that point to from a TV show to real life, right now in the state of Texas, there are communities that are fighting the language that are in contracts right now. I posted it yesterday stating how um, in this community they're saying how as a black person you can't sell, lease, or rent in these communities. Although they're living in these communities now, the text is still in the contracts. The text is still there. In 2021, the text is still there,
Mm.
although it's not enforced. So they're saying let's change the language. So that mentality has been in our country for so long, is the exact reason why Jonathan Petlin said what he said. He
Mm.
felt that although around his area, his little block, there's black people all around that area. The kid lives in that community. He didn't
Yeah.
know that, but he feels that his little sector of his little section, no one else belongs there but those people.
Yeah.
That's a
But
mentality.
you see that coming around the corner, there was a woman of color that comes into the
Two of them.
scene and then encounters them and sticks up for him. And so I applaud her for doing that. And then you see the video just shut down at that point um, because the kid is walking off and
Yeah.
clearly um, they're being seen as being uh, jerks. Um, I when I commented on this, I said that somebody that was in a military family for 20 years, and we lived in military housing. I don't know if this was military housing. It kind of looked like it might be, but it probably wasn't. I don't know what kind of a neighborhood is that he lives in. I mean, the houses look nice. It looked like a pretty nice neighborhood, of which military housing normally is pretty nice and safe. It's a safe place. People walking around, people are outside, people deal with each other, people see each other, people ask about each other. And one of the things about living in that sort of community, in the military community, is that we were there were all kinds of people from all different places in this country, and all different races. I mean, we live next to Hispanic Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans,
Mhm.
people from Hawaii, people from South Carolina, Texas. It didn't matter. People from all over the place. People from Alaska, South Dakota, and so you're all kind of in the same situation, and so kind of race became sort of be placed on the back seat, and it was a beautiful place to raise your kids for a while because they were interacting with people who normally because I think we are still in a segregated society as far as like neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
don't you? Wouldn't you agree with that? It's like
I agree.
proximity to like
I agree.
where people live. You might work with people of a different race. You might be go to school with people of a different race. But in neighborhoods, though, we're still kind of segregated. And
Yeah,
in the military, they force you into you know to living situations that you wouldn't normally be in. And so, if the person next to you is of a different race, so be it, and you get
mhm,
along.
yeah.
And we got along beautifully. And
Until
so
you get until you get
it
out.
just saddens me. Yeah, until you get out, and then you go back into the world,
And
and
also,
now we live in a homogeneous place where not 95% of the people are of the same race, and that is what it is. But it saddens me that this was a military person, who was a military person of some years, by the way,
yeah,
that was doing this and approaching this person.
yeah. So it shows you that the military is just as racist as outside of the military. He's a
Yeah,
prime example.
it can be, sure.
Well,
Yeah.
it is. Speak to
Hmm.
black officers. Speak to
Hmm.
black people in the military. They'll tell you that it's still racist. And the thing about it is that you're in a position where you have to depend on each other. In combat, you have to depend on each other. You don't have to like the person. You can hate the person's guts, but you still got to depend on that person to save your life. So the thing
I
about
want
it is that the mentality is still there. And
Yeah.
it's an inherent mentality that's been passed down from generation to generation. And that the reason why the Jonathan Petlin, the guy in South Carolina, the reason why he acts the way he acts is the same. The conversation me and you had a while ago is the conversation that people don't have in different communities. You don't have the community. If no one approached Jonathan Petlin that told him he was wrong, probably people in his family never told him he was wrong.
Mm.
People that he worked with probably never told him you were wrong. They allow him to spew his hate in conversation and never check him on it. At that dinner
It-
table at Thanksgiving, they always said this. I was just listening to the story. You got your Thanksgiving dinner, and that one uncle that you know that everybody know he's gonna say something crazy.
yeah,
He
yeah.
says something, and it could be a racist comment, or he's talking about some issues, and he's saying it from a racist perspective. And no one's gonna tell him he's wrong. And then another family member chip in, oh well, yeah, you're right about that. I agree with you on that. No one's bold enough or have the balls to say, that's wrong.
Mm.
You're wrong.
Yeah, no, this is why I say that to approach these people and to counter their arguments, don't just let it go. Don't just let it pass because they're going to continue to spew their hate.
Oh,
And those are seeds. What you say, your attitude, and what you say and
yeah,
how you say it are seeds that are planted in other people's hearts that tell them that signal people that say maybe it is okay to feel this way.
yeah,
I can express myself. We saw this during Trump. And people
yeah,
said it over and over again you because they saw the president doing this. It's like, oh, this is okay now. I
yeah,
feel empowered to share my feelings about this. And if nobody is countering them, if nobody is saying that, hey, that's not cool, or I don't agree with that. Please don't say that around me, or I disagree with that, or you shouldn't
yeah,
treat somebody like that, or don't treat my friend like that. even if it's your family, your coworkers, even it's your friend that you've been friends with for years, you could still be friends with that person. But if they say something wrong that is obviously wrong, then I say counter that. People are scared about, like, oh, I don't want to lose a friend. I don't want to be divisive. I don't want to be political, this and that.
Hmm.
But I say it's good to counter, to
Yeah.
present a counter argument to that when people spew BS, and when people spew hate, or when people spew a biased angle against somebody. I
Yeah.
say to counter it. And that's why I say that it's important to do it, because
I
otherwise it
agree.
just spreads. It just spreads.
Yeah.
So Joshua has a comment here about Biden's proposed actions. I assume he's talking about guns
Yeah.
and gun control.
Yeah.
Um, will it stop the tragedies? It's not going to stop the tragedies completely, but I think it might go a long way, especially if there is, and I know we've talked about this before, ad you know ad nauseum maybe, but I believe that if you reinstitute an assault weapons ban, that you will see a difference in the long term, over the long haul, in a 10-year
Hmm.
period of time, like there used to be. During
Yeah.
the time when there was that federal ban on what so-called assault weapons. I know that's a buzzword that people like to debate about, and they say, like, well,
Right.
what's an assault weapon? Aren't all guns assault weapons? This and that. But when you had those bans, we saw less of this.
Yeah.
And the more this goes on, the more guns there are out there, the more angry people are going to act out. So is it going to stop it? No. Will it help? Yes. And if it saves a few people, isn't that worth it? Isn't it worth it to save more people? I would say yes. So I would say that there's reasonable things that we can do. High capacity rounds, limiting the firing rate of some of these weapons, limiting the ability to put together ghost guns at home that are untraceable, being able to put on a modification on a pistol to make it fire more rapidly, to make it more deadly. These things kill more people. Yeah, somebody might still get angry and come into a workplace or to a subway and shoot people. Um, but if but if there's less of a chance that they are going to um, release more ammunition in a shorter period of time, then more people will survive, and maybe the police can get there and stop them and saving more lives. This is what this is all about. And so I agree with Biden's policies. Do I think it's going to pass? No, I don't think that most of these things aren't going to pass. I think you might see, like, the ghost gun proposal pass Congress. Will we get universal background checks? Maybe, maybe. I think if we did in the next 4 years, I think that would be a win. Um, I think that would go a long way to of keeping guns out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them.
Well, the thing about the gun control legislation, um, like Josh was talking about, more so the proposed actions. The ghost guns, I have no problem with. You can get rid of the ghost guns. Okay, what do you mean? Okay, Josh, you said they're just scare tactics. I mean, I'm trying to understand, are not that prevalent of a problem, really. Well, what we see, and he makes a point with that, because you haven't seen anyone use a ghost gun in these shootings.
No,
Especially
that's true. That's true.
the last few they bought them.
Hmm.
I understand. I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with the 3D guns that they're creating. Um, I'm not, because the ghost guns are parts you can build without the serial numbers. But I'm saying, like, the 3D guns, I can see that being an issue. Let me see. Lowers are like 3% of the market. Okay, I get that. I don't have a problem with that law. I don't have a problem with the red flag law.
But isn't it like the 3% of the guns that are causing these issues and that result in big incidents?
Well, they're not the ghost guns, is what he's saying. They're not ghost guns.
No,
People,
they're not ghost guns, but
they're
it might be a smaller percentage of these guns out there that are causing these mass shootings that
No,
are
no.
used in these mass shootings.
Some of these ghost guns could be an illegal gun trade and sales. They can be also used by we got to find the responsible gun owners. They do need better background checks for people that are responsible gun owners. The criminals are one thing. Like the gun that Adam Toledo had, we don't know if it was stolen. We don't know if it was a 3D gun. We don't know if it was something that was manufactured. We don't know anything about that gun just yet. Just to make, let me see. Here's Dan. Just to make an observation, haven't seen what's killing with ghost guns in the media. I have a question. How many black policemen have shot or killed white children? Not many. I know one black guy killed a kid here in Texas a couple years back. I know of that one, and I think he got off on that. And he was going after the dad and was shooting and hit the kid. This is from Josh again. I think just saying that ghost guns are untraceable is a tactic to make people want this gun control when those guns aren't really the issue. I agree. I see my thing again. When it comes down to legislation, I want to see people who do not need guns not to have guns. I want to see America track down the illegal gun trade. Now that's something that Biden
Yes.
does have. Biden does have in his legislation here saying that investing in not that one there. He wants to do an annual. This is the part that gets me. Justice Department will issue an annual report on firearms trafficking. A report. No, I want to see him say the Justice Department will go after the illegal gun sales because that's where the money's at.
Yeah, the report.
And believe me, and
I'm
think
not
about
sure
it.
what that's going to do.
And these aren't people. And these people, I put the gun control. I mean, the gun trafficking, sex trafficking, and drug trafficking all on the same line.
On the
all
same level.
Three,
Interesting.
and the reason why
I'd have to think about that.
Only reason why I say that because all of them deal with high people of power and money. They just had a drug. Hey, right here. Here we go. Right here. I want to show you something.
Okay.
I promise you, these aren't the money people. Let me find it. I just had it earlier today. I just pulled it up. It was 97. Here we go. Pastor, girls high school basketball coach among 79 arrested in Florida human trafficking operation.
Okay.
This is in Hillsborough, Florida. Florida sheriffs announced Thursday over 70 men were arrested as part of a week-long operation aimed at combating human trafficking. Operation Takedown took place March 30th through April 9th in Florida, leading up to a WrestleMania. It is the second human trafficking operation. He just called it that. Operation conducted by Sheriff's Office this year and have a large-scale community event. Sheriff Chad I don't want to jack up his name, Cronster, said detectives went undercover, conducted chat, hotel, and streetwalker operations that led to the arrest. Now, among those arrested was Ernest Benjamin. He's an area pastor of Breath of Life Worship Church in Tampa. 39-year-old Christopher Ray, a girls' high school basketball coach at Land Lakes High School. Both of these men, trusted and reverend members of our community, were arrested for soliciting another to commit prostitution. Now, I want to say something about this right quick. I'm actually going to show you a picture of the people that got arrested. Now, these people are everyday people, right? That's in our community, right there. Take that off.
Can you blow that picture up?
Let me see if I can get it bigger.
It's hard for me to see on my little screen here. It's
Let
on
me see if
your
I can open
screen,
up in a new tab, maybe.
Okay.
See, open image in a new tab. That happens.
That's interesting what you say about being gun trafficking, drug trafficking, and human trafficking being on the same level. Because they do deal with people in power. That much is true, and sometimes they're very, very related.
Now this is
no,
why
I can't. But it's okay. It's okay.
Well, this is why I say that they're similar, because people there, these people need to be arrested. Yes, but they make it look like this is the core. These are just street handlers, basically.
Street pushers. Yep.
That's all they are.
Mhm.
What about the people that are investing in the girls that they're trafficking? What about the people that are investing in the transportation of these girls? Who are the
What about the
people?
demand for it? What about the
Right.
demand for it?
Who are the people that are
Are we
demanding
doing
these
anything
girls?
about this?
They're not doing anything about those people. That's the
Mhm.
point. Well, that goes all the way back to Jerry Epstein's situation.
Well, I mean, here's we use the argument that, well, people who want to commit crimes will get their hands on guns. That goes for the same for illegal human trafficking. If it's sex trafficking, if there's a demand for it, people are going to go find it. Um, there's going to there's going to be people to provide you with that. Okay, as sick as that sounds, as long as there is a demand for that kind of thing, be it drugs, be it prostitution, uh, be it guns, people are going to get their hands on it. So what are we doing about the root cause of this, which is in the hearts of people, in the hearts and minds of people? Now, not to make a transition here. Joshua brings up mental health. He has a long comment here about mental health. My issue with this comment is that, what about other countries? They have mental health problems in other countries. Are we just more crazy? Are we just more angry than other countries? What is it about America that we have such a high rate of killing each other with guns? Why is there um, such a high rate of crime and murder involving firearms
Because
in
it
this
was
country? It
always
has to be more than mental health. It's more than mental health. You're saying that there's no crazy people in Europe and in China and Australia, you name a country. Why is the numbers astronomically more in this country? It has to do with the prevalence of guns.
well, one thing, his last statement is what's false. He says, but this gun control stuff is really more muddy than just getting rid of guns. First of all, no one's getting rid of guns. That's not our issue. They're not getting rid of guns. The gun control stuff is a political conversation. But let's get down to factual stuff is when you have the ability, well, this I'll put it this way. The people that have shot people over the past, say, 10 years, we've seen a lot of people have been shot because the gun thing has always benefited a group of people. And like I said, you always wonder why Lamar always brings up race because it's factual. If guns were if guns were equally represented, I don't think we will have these conversations. Because if people are saying right now, the more and more people of color become licensed gun owners, the more and more of these laws will not be talked about as much. The more and more you see black gun
Say more
clubs
about
come
that.
up,
Say about what you mean about that.
because
I'm
the fact
unclear
that
about what you mean.
this past year since the Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery got killed by gun violence, more and more black people have become licensed gun owners. Since
Yes,
2016, more gun clubs have been established across this country. The
yes.
biggest gun club, the African American Gun Association,
Hmm.
has been established. Now, the thing about it is that over the years, from the beginning of time, since weapons have been out there, it's been disproportionately approved to have, say it that way. When a certain group of people start become armed, there are policies to take those guns away. The more and more I think people become armed or licensed people of color, those conversations are going to start dying down because more people are
Hmm.
going to support it. The thing about it is that it's the criminals that we need to contain. The mental health issue is there. I totally agree. I totally agree. Mental health is one of the main things, but how do you establish that with all the HIPAA laws? How can you put mental health into a background check? The only way that's going to be established is the red flag laws. Now, if red flag laws are used in the proper way, for instance, the guy in Boulder, Colorado, his family knew he had mental health issues.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
family knew that he will go around saying, "They're coming after me. The government's coming
Yeah,
after me."
yeah.
The guy that ran into the cops, the Capitol Police with his car, had a car full of guns that was part of the Nation of Islam. He was complaining about the government coming after him. The government's going to come after. The CIA is going to come after me. These people have. I'm not saying there aren't conspiracy theories. You're not saying that people don't have mental health issues. What I'm saying is that red flag laws will point this stuff out. The guy in Parkland, The guy in Parkland that shot the students up there, he had a whole social media thread of dealing with extremist groups and racist groups. That was a red flag for you. The guy that shot up in at the church in down in Texas, southern Texas, he was in the Air Force. He had a history of mental health. He had an issue of disciplinary action of issues going on in it. Why wasn't the red flag put up to say this dude is not stable? We see this over and over again.
Hmm.
So the mental health is an issue. The red flags are there. These cops who shoot people, there's a history of excessive force, like Darren Chauvin. The red flag was there, but it wasn't
Yep.
stopped. So
Yeah, I think the red flag laws will go a
man,
long way
I go
as to
on and on.
trying to cut down on this stuff.
But
At
to
least,
just get rid of guns is not the issue. It's also the money. Gun manufacturers, the lobbying, all that's money.
yep, it's money.
All of it's money, man. And so I agree to a certain extent. Guns are not the problem. It's the people. But
So Joe makes this comment here. I had a question as to exactly what you mean by this, Joe. The bullet shortage has an effect. Do you mean that limiting the capacity? Is that what you mean? It might be a key
no, there's
factor
a
of slowing
shortage
things
right
down.
now. There's an ammo shortage in our country ever since
There's
the
an
summer.
ammo shortage?
Ever since the
Okay.
summer, yeah. The price
Because
of ammunition.
people are buying it out, or
Yeah, it really started to go bad after George Floyd died. But it started the price changed like in April and May. Weapons almost doubled in price between
okay,
April and this year.
okay,
Ammo has doubled. I mean, it's like you were able to buy like a pack of 50 bullets for like 18 bucks, $10.
hmm
It's like 70, $80, and you're getting like 25 bullets. If you're getting some good
okay.
quality critical defense type bullets. Red flag was there for cop that killed Shamir Rice. Rest in peace. That cop deserved to fry.
Yeah,
Right. The red flag failed. Right. You're exactly right, John. This is the point I'm making. So it's not only with our citizens that are gun owners, but also our law enforcement. So it's all around the board of
yeah.
the red flags are there.
hmm
The red flags are there. That family that shot Ahmaud Arbery, the red flags were there. That off-duty patrolman, remember, he was a off-duty patrolman that did not pass his. He was a what do you call a citizen's? What do you call? They can make a citizen's arrest.
Here,
He got that. He had that privilege was taken away because he would not go through the proper training every year. So that's an example of another red flag. Is that he had privileges that they've overlooked for years
hmm
until this happened. Now it's an issue because you let a man on the loose that showed his tendencies. Is
I have,
racism a red flag? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but that would be an interesting discussion. Is racism a red flag? Should it be considered a red flag? I don't
If you
know.
have
That
a
would be
history,
hard. That'd be hard to. It could be a slippery slope if you have a history of that sort of thing. If you have a history of threatening people because of race,
well, that's
because
what
of
I'm
your
saying.
racist attitudes, then that should be a red flag, I think.
That's what I'm saying.
Um,
Not just you're a racist, the actions of it. Your
yeah.
actions against someone
If
else
if
in
if
violent
there's some
ways.
sort of documented issue with
Yeah,
you, was there some sort of incident in regards to racism? Then that should be a red flag. I want to go back to mental health because people
yeah.
always say that, like, we have a mental health crisis in this country, and the
Mm,
problem is mental health. I hear that over and over again.
mm.
The problem in this country with violence is a mental health crisis, but nobody puts out anything to solve the problem of mental health. Okay, so what would you do to try and alleviate this huge mental health problem, this perceived mental health problem that we have in this country as the reason for the violence in this country? Nobody puts out any solutions for mental health. We can do something about the guns. We can do something because guns are a commodity that's sold. We can limit the manufacturing of guns. We can limit we can make it more expensive. Whatever you want to do, there's a lot of things you can do. What can you do with mental health? What are the proposals out there to try and help people with their mental health problems? I don't hear any solutions out there for that
How do you?
by the people making that claim.
Well, for one thing, if mental health was part of the background check, I think it would make a difference. I really do. But how do you put that there? How do you establish that? How do you put that in place? Because medical information is private. So how do you put that out there? There are so many cases of people
Exactly.
that have had
Exactly.
issues, and
It's
like
harder to do. It's harder to
one
do.
of the things I mentioned, I think it was last week we talked about this, was that if a student, for instance, a kid grabs a gun from his parents' firearm collection and goes out and kills someone or kill the family.
Mhm.
But I mean, if you kill someone else, I think the parents should be responsible because they left that weapon
Yes, they
open
should be.
or not secured, right?
Yeah,
I think there should be
that's
tough
holding
penalties.
the responsible party liable.
Exactly, responsibility. Um, I think that that will help. There's so many things that we can do to help, but then within our own homes,
Yeah,
that
but
I think.
what are these things? What are these things specifically? I'm looking for specifics.
Yeah, I just gave you one. I
We
said
could just say
charge
say,
families
well,
who.
we should invest in mental health. We should put mental health on the background check. That's not taking away that's not dealing with the problem of mental health. That's just making sure that I can't buy a gun if I'm mentally ill.
So how does a person know they have?
It doesn't help my mental illness.
No, what I'm saying is,
How do you help
who
my
fixed
mental
that?
illness?
It goes. It
How do
still
you
goes.
invest in that?
It still goes with the family,
Give me a
though.
proposal. Give me a
It goes.
proposal.
It
Somebody
starts
prepare
at home,
something for
but
me.
it starts at home. It starts at home, Darren. If you know you have a family member with mental health issues, everyone keeps it under the rug. No one talks about it. You know the person next to you has a mental health issue in your household, and you won't talk about it.
Well, you can't enforce that. You can't force people to turn people in. You can't
That's the
enforce
that's
people
the
to have
point.
people committed.
So that's what
It's
that's
harder to do.
well. That's why there's no record. That's why there could be no policy as of right now
You,
because of that. Because it's privacy.
that's why we make gun policy and we don't have mental health policies because it's more difficult um, to accomplish. Period.
But I'm
That's
what
why we deal with guns
but when you
because
deal
dealing with the mental health problems are more complicated.
so you'd rather say it's complicated than to deal with that issue. Like I said,
What do you give me a proposal then?
like I
Give me
told you,
something that's going to help with mental health.
the red flags have been out there and we've done nothing. I'm talking about those that have
That's just keeping a gun out of my hands.
no. What I'm saying is after you've established that, if you see that a person went to a store to buy a gun and it showed he had mental health issues, there should be some mental health people, experts at that person's house discussing with this person, why are you trying to buy a firearm
So the
and find
government's going to send those people to your house and question you
they
and
come to your house.
maybe detain you, maybe force you to go into a psychiatric facility?
They do the same thing
Is that
for
what you're
other.
going to do?
I'm saying they do that for other issues, don't they?
Do they?
Do they not?
That's pretty extreme.
Let you let you let let
It takes a
let it.
family member or a very close friend in order to have somebody committed, and then it probably still won't happen.
What I'm saying is that government agencies get involved in your life in many ways outside of this type of situation. Let a parent discipline their child the wrong way, and then the child protective services are at your house, and you're just trying to keep your child in line.
See, that's just it. See, social services are
They're still
virtually
government.
non-existent and super underfunded in this country to begin with.
No, no.
So you're gonna sort of
I gave an
pour money
example.
in on the problem,
No, no. I
and
just gave an
without
example.
personnel
No,
and
no.
training,
I didn't say that.
and
I didn't say that. You asked me other. I gave you an example how government agencies get involved with people's households. You told me that if a person has mental health, are they going to come to your door and can apprehend you? I said, well, they do it now with other situations, and I just gave you an example how they do it.
rarely.
Rarely,
Yeah,
dude, dude. You know how many people have been put aside because they spanked their kid at a grocery store because they were
they
acting
will.
up?
I don't know anyone
Oh,
that has
okay,
happened to. I've
okay.
known some very negligent parents
I ain't talking about
who
very negligent. I'm talking about because someone saw a kid get spanked by their parents and a bystander got nosy and called child services or the police on that parent. It happens a lot.
in my community,
I'm sure it doesn't in your
that's not going to
community.
happen.
I'm sure it doesn't in your community. I can imagine it
I don't,
doesn't happen in your community.
it doesn't. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen
Okay.
somebody have their children taken away because they're spanking them in a store.
Well,
They, you don't understand um, the kind of priorities that social services has that are way in front of things like this. I mean,
I'm not
you're gonna
disagreeing.
call your neighbor because you think he's crazy, because he was throwing a fit or yelling at his wife. Okay, good luck. Good luck with that.
All I'm saying is that there are red flags in people's lives that get passed by, and then when something violent happens, it's like, wow, all the evidence was there. You're looking for solutions. I'm telling you what there are the symptoms. And I'm
Hmm.
saying your solution and my symptoms have to meet somewhere to where we can start finding a solution to the whole, to resolve these issues. And it's not just firearms. It could be so many issues. A mental health issue. This is a mental health issue. I want to bring this one up because
Okay,
I think it's a
I just want to state this. I am totally for more social services and for more funding in social services, but you need personnel. And I'm just being pessimistic because I've seen I've seen stuff. Okay, I've seen stuff in my community, and I know the stuff that goes on in my community and communities all over this country. Uh, there is massive neglect of social services, and that includes mental health of people. Um,
here you go right here.
it is shown that if you have somebody who is a mental health professional um, show up to instead of the police, in many circumstances, it makes a huge difference. But you have to have a community that's willing to invest in that, and you just don't have it. You just don't have it. I'm a pessimist.
Yeah,
I say I'm all for it.
yeah.
Go for it.
This
I'm
is
just
Dan.
saying that I just don't think it's um, that it's gonna happen.
This is
We can't
Dan.
even invest in fixing roads and bridges in this country that are falling apart. We can't even invest in an electric grid that fails in Texas. You
Right.
think we're going to invest in social workers that are going to show up at people's house instead of the police
See,
or
it doesn't. No.
along with
See,
police?
you're taking it to a far left, far or right, far
That's
left,
not
up or
that's
down.
not political. That's not a
It's
political thing.
no,
How is
no.
that a political thing?
I'm not making it political. When I use see, that's what happens when you get used to those terms. That's not what I'm
Okay,
saying.
well,
I'm not
tell me
using it.
what you're
What I'm
talking
saying
about.
is you're going all the way outside. Read what Dan Bailey just said. I had a child on my school bus. She had gotten fed up with bullying at school, brought her mother's firearm to school on the bus. The
Mm.
students informed me. I was able to direct her to the principal. We had to be more vocal when we see trouble about to happen. That's what we don't do. This is what I'm saying. When you know that person in your family has mental health issues, you try to work with that person and get help.
Well, show me in that scenario where any government involvement would have made a difference.
I didn't say it had to be government involvement. I gave you an example how government does get involved. Like I said, with the child being beat, the
Somebody
government
has
gets
to
involved.
report. Someone has to step up. Someone
All
has
I'm
to say
saying is,
something.
why are we more responsible as people? Why are if you
Because
and
everyone is in their own little world. Because
look,
we don't
see,
live in
so you
neighborhoods
just
anymore. We don't live in communities where we look out for each other, I don't think.
even then
I
it
don't
didn't
think so.
happen.
I don't
Then
think
it
we
didn't
do.
happen. You didn't do it then. Even when we talked to each other, you kept stuff under the rug. You didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
No one talked about it. So what I'm saying is that we have to work with our own community, within our own household, our own families, to get the help the people need for people that need help. It was a time when someone was mentally ill, and we just said they were crazy because they were talking gibberish. When actually there was a problem there. And I know for a fact in the black community, we've swept mental health under the rug because we didn't think we dealt with mental health issues. We
Hmm.
didn't think it was that big of a deal over the years.
Okay.
It's more prevalent in everyone's family. Every ethnic background deals with mental health. All I'm saying is that there are issues out there that we see every day in our own families, and we don't speak up, is what I'm saying. We
I
allow things to
totally
go
agree
on.
with that. I totally agree with that.
So before the
My
government
only
get involved,
argument
we can
is
get involved at home. That's
yes,
all I'm saying. And if you see that you've been
I'm
telling
all for it. I'm
somebody,
110% behind it.
if you have a kid that you know the kid is going through issues and you're not addressing those issues and you see it escalating and escalating and escalating, and then boom, something happens where something violent happens, and all the warning signs were there. Now you feel guilty because the warning signs were there.
Mhm.
That guy in Texas that shot up at the Walmart in El Paso, his mom called the police and said, my son has a AR-15. I don't think he's responsible. I don't think he's trained. I don't think he needs to have this weapon. She calls the police, and the police says, nothing we can do about it. He's an 18-year-old. He can do what he wants to do. And she's giving them the red flags. He has all this neo-Nazi propaganda on his wall in his room. All this stuff that show racist tendencies on his walls.
Excuse me.
You have people who are drug dealers, who are criminals in the streets. And you know they're a criminal in the street. No one in the community, there are people in the community that want these people taken care of, but then they're scared because they don't want to speak out, because they don't want retaliation. Yeah. There's so many factors in place of why we don't speak up, is what I'm saying. But it happens. Thanks, Josh, for the comment there. He said,
yeah, thank you, Josh, for that comment. We appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I really do. Thank you.
I will go back to what I said at the beginning of this, and not to be argumentative. It's just that people have a tendency to say we don't need more gun control laws, we need more mental health control, but they don't present anything that's concrete, or they don't present anything that the government has anything to do with. You calling social services, or you speaking out, or you saying something to somebody is not equated into any budget line, is not equated into any proposed legislation to be passed by any government agency in this country. It has to do with everyone stepping up and being and taking responsibility for their communities. And that's just a different that's just a difference between these issues, between mental health care and looking out for one another, and doing something on the other hand about guns. Okay, we can do something about guns through legislation. Okay, with mental health services, there's less that we can do through legislation.
Do you think everyone?
It's just that simple. That's my point.
I got a question. I got a question for you and Josh, because both of you have talked about the mental health. Do you believe that everyone who's doing these mass shootings have mental health issues?
That's a very, very good question. I would say yes, by definition, that yes. If you are a mass murderer, I think by definition that means, I'm not a psychologist, but that means that you are somebody who is at some level psychotic. Wouldn't you have to agree with that? I mean, by definition, if you are being somebody who is harmful to other people, people call that being a madman. Okay.
Yeah.
If you are a murderer, if you want to inflict harm to people, then even if it's just a momentary act of anger or passion, that would have to be considered a mental illness, I think.
Does
somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Well, there's a difference between anger and acting on anger, though.
I'm saying
I get angry.
Yeah.
Everyone gets angry.
Yeah.
Anger doesn't mean that you're mentally ill. Like just simply being angry, acting on it, planning something, because these things are planned. Like if you go into and you buy a whole bunch of ammo and you come in with your weapon and with your AR-15, you planned that. Okay, if you walk into a school or a store or wherever it is, you're planning that. So that shows premeditation. That shows that you were in a state of mind that is just not considered to be within the bounds of normal.
Why couldn't it be that that person just has that much hatred? Is that considered mental illness or not? I think
that much hatred by definition is mentally ill.
It is?
I would say, yeah.
I think we put, I'm not discrediting or minimizing mental health issues. I just think people know exactly what they're doing because they are just evil at heart. I look at Dylan Roof. That was evil at heart. I don't think that was mental illness. I think that he's been misled. I think that he has began to believe something that was totally not true. But I don't think it was because of that that we talked about I've talked about several times before. There's this thing called conscientious stupidity, and then you have sincere ignorance. Sincere ignorance will allow you. We talked about that. The first statement I said was willfully ignorant. Some people go into something ignorant and continue, even when they know it's wrong, and continue to do it. because they've been misled for so long. I think that has a lot to do with a lot of people also. I think
It's
there's so
interesting.
many factors in play here. But when you have a person that has a history of mental health issues, when I'm saying like a history there, um, and we allow, okay, what do you do with a person with PTSD that's coming out of the military? Do you take weapons out of their hand? You're not going to do it.
Well, with red flag laws, you might.
They're not going to do it.
It's a slippery slope. You don't think so?
There's a respect for
Somebody with PTSD that has been shown to be a danger to themselves or others, and there's been documented cases of ex-military people who are having trouble after having come home from combat situations, um, who have committed acts of violence upon their families. Okay, so if you're talking about red flag laws and trying to get guns out of the hands of people who are a threat to others, that's going to come up. That's going to come up. People with PTSD who have firearms, that's going to come up. I mean, have you ever seen the movie? This came out a while ago, but Minority Report with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
You remember that? So it was in the not so distant future where they were able to figure out crimes before they happen. Okay, you
Yeah.
talk about infringing upon people's constitutional rights with guns. It goes the same way with mental health. Okay, how deep are you going to dive into people? Are you going to talk about people with anxiety disorders? Are you going to talk about people with general depression? Are you going to talk about people with anger management issues? Yeah, how far are you going to go with these red flag laws? I'm playing devil's advocate right
No,
now.
I hear
How
you.
far do you
I hear you.
go? How far do you go with this stuff?
Yeah. Well, I look at a couple of things there with that. It's hard to say how far you will go because it's mental health has so many different um, webs that are entangled, or so many legs that have reached out, that it's hard to really narrow anything down. And I look at you can look at anything, like look at the military. Right now they're saying there's more racism in the military. Is that considered a mental health issue? Or is that a hatred
Is
issue?
racism a mental health disorder?
I would
That's a
I would think so.
that's a topic to talk about.
But it goes all the way back to the thing I said about misinformation. It's about what you have been led to believe. So think about this. We talked about PTSD in the military and how how fine line that is, taking weapons away from our veterans. But if you come out of the military and you've been have embraced a white supremacy mentality in the military, like Jonathan Petlin. Now I don't know if he was like that before the military or after, but now you have this mentality in the military that can cause you to do violence to someone else. Is that mental health, or is that
Or is it
sincere?
brainwashing?
Is it brainwashing, sincere ignorance, or is it conscious and stupidity? He's doing it knowing he's wrong,
Hmm.
and he's in the military. So when you get out, now what about the person who was on the negative end of that behavior in the military? Now he's viewing different
The
military
victim?
people, the victim you're in the military and you're a victim of this type of behavior. You get out of the military and you look at people that was acting just like that person was in the military. You see him on the street now. He's a veteran with these same views as this person, like a Jonathan Petlin. And this guy now sees you on the street, and there's a tension that's there. Can PTSD come involved with that victim and can do some violent harm? He could be mentally impaired, because he now looks at people from a different lens because of what he endured in the military from racism. I know people like that. I know people who were mistreated in the military, through racist ways,
Okay.
and they have an edge on them outside of the military, and they look at people their same counterparts in the military on the street now,
But that's
knowing
interesting.
how
Yeah.
knowing how they acted then, and they're like,
Yeah.
I don't take no chances around here because I know how they did me in the military.
Yeah.
I can't take chances out here on the street, so I got my
Yeah.
arms,
I got my
my
arms.
weapons, I
Yeah.
got my
Mhm.
weapons because
I'm prepared.
I
Okay.
can't trust these people. Is that a mental illness, or is that a person who is saying I'm taking arms now because I'm guarding myself?
Well, I think that when you
Rambo,
talk
right?
about,
Exactly.
I think what you Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Rambo, but yeah, I think when you're talking about mental health, you are totally correct that I would use red flag laws sparingly, because it's a slippery slope. Slippery slope. Statistically, like 1 in every 5 people in this country has been diagnosed. That's just those who have been diagnosed. It could be something minor, it could be something temporary with some sort of mental health disorder, who have had a mental health illness at some point in their lives. Okay,
But we just saw 3 people,
so
dude. Three
your
people.
example of
We just saw three
somebody,
people. It's been 3 people in the past month.
yeah, but those 3 people would be considered somebody with a more severe mental illness. So I mean, Joe's talking about Forrest Gump. Um, did Forrest Gump ever demonstrate any kind of tendency that would have been violent? No. So we're not talking about people who are developmentally handicapped. All right. We're talking about people who would show at some point some sort of violent or dangerous impact. Are they a danger to themselves and others? Okay, because we're not even talking about suicide here. Suicide rate among military people.
Yeah.
What about that? If it,
And police
even if
officers.
we could save their own lives, okay, if we could somehow save their own lives, we're not even talking about them harming other people. Um, it's a matter of them saving their own lives sometimes. And so if we can get guns out of the hands of those people, and at least have them think about things, and at least have them seen by somebody, so they have somebody to talk to first before it gets to that point when they have a gun in their hands and they're going to blow themselves away. I hate to put it like that, but
But I think you're going a little far off when you say, but when we talk about the suicide rate, I mean, that is a mental health issue. I'm not
that's a
going to get,
mental health issue,
no, no, no. But the reason why I say that, what
and it's a gun
when
issue.
when you look at the military, the people that are suicidal, what did they endure in the military to put them in that position to have this mental? I'm not saying they couldn't handle the war or they couldn't handle fighting. What else did they see that they couldn't handle that would give them mental health issues that would go out and kill people? Could it be that they were allowed to kill or they were allowed to do things in the military that you can't do on the street anyway? Do
Right.
people get caught up embracing that? Do you see that
Sometimes,
the
sure.
way the military is ran in America? There's a lot of stuff going on that people say, "Wow, our military is really dirty. They don't do things by the book." You hear
Yeah.
a lot of stories. So it's like I put that in a different scenario, the same thing way I do with police officers. I think police officers have been put in a situation sometime where they're stuck of the person that wants to talk and the person that wants you to be quiet. The person that wants to talk feel bottle capped where he can't do what he needs to do, or he's involved in something he never should have got involved in, and now his life is in jeopardy.
Hmm.
It could be so many things why people commit suicide in the military and as a police officer. I look at the Capitol Police who shot themselves. I have two different ways of looking at it. I look at it that some of these police could have been involved in the insurrection on the Capitol.
Hmm.
They figured they might have been given away. They might have been told. They got their
Oh,
name might have got out. So they committed
that's an
suicide.
interesting. That's an
You
interesting
know?
point.
Yeah. Then you got those that felt so guilty that this even happened on their watch that they couldn't take it. They killed themselves. There's so many ways to look at
There
that.
could be a lot of different reasons. Yeah.
When I first heard the officer, the first one that killed
Excuse me.
himself, the first officer to committed suicide, the Capitol officer, the first thing I thought was he was involved, and this is just me being biased. Maybe I was thinking that he was involved and he didn't want to get caught. He killed himself. That was my first initial reaction to why would this man kill himself? Why would he commit suicide?
Yeah. Yeah.
That insurrection goes deep. That's not like a bunch of people decided to get together and go storm the Capitol. This
I think
was
there. I
deep.
think you may be right that there's more to it than meets the eye. That maybe some of these Capitol Police um, might have been in on it. Might have felt guilty for letting them come in. Might have felt guilty for letting it get out of hand, and they might have also felt the trauma of the experience.
Yeah.
So
Well, more
it
is
could
coming
be,
out.
or a combination of all that.
More is coming out because you heard, like I said, this week they said that the uh, the Capitol Police was told they were instructed not to use of force on these people. That goes deep. That came out this week. Do not
Yeah.
use of force. So I'm like, wow, where was that information out week one?
Yeah.
You know?
So it was made the point online with our listeners here that you cannot own firearms on disability for PTSD. True,
We
but
know that.
as we have seen, a lot of times you can get your hands on guns without it being legal. So
No, but there are people. There's people who got PTSD who's never been diagnosed with it either.
sure,
They have it. They know they got it. You know what I'm saying? If you wake up in the middle of the night screaming, you got it. You got people who look at people funny down the street, and you talk to them. They'll tell you their story. They'll tell you. Ask
mm,
somebody next time you see someone who's and PTSD is not only from the military. There's PTSD in all forms in
hmm
society. That stress, that traumatic stress comes from different things that happen in your life
yeah.
and you respond from. It doesn't have to be from a military situation.
Wow, did we get on a topic there?
Yeah. Oh, we did. Thanks, Josh, for bringing that up, the mental health issue. But I think that's going to be an ongoing conversation. But get back to Joe Biden and some of excuse me, some of Joe Biden's proposed things.
Well,
I
he
do
wants to. He
I
has
do
some
agree
stuff
with
against Russian.
I do have the thing with like I said, the red flag laws
Okay.
have no addition with guns without numbers. And more than anything, I want to see private sales have more regulation. A private sale for me to use.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that we should be done at a FFL where they can go and
Yeah. That's a good
give you
point.
your
Yeah.
background checks and everything. So
Yeah.
what were you saying? We got like about
Oh, I
another
don't know. You just brought
9
up Biden.
minutes.
You were talking about proposals that Biden has. So
Well, that's what Just initially
Biden
said.
wants to expel Russian diplomats. He has a whole list of things. He's got names and wants to impose a whole bunch of sanctions on the Russian Federation for all of the stuff that they've done over the last 5 years to our country, many of which has been publicized, many of which has been publicized, and most people don't understand it, and many of which we probably don't know anything about because it is in the dark web or something.
Yeah.
But Biden wants to crack down on some of this stuff of Russian meddling. And what do you think of all this?
Uh
It labels 30 Russian
we
entities,
mentioned
including the
it before.
expulsion of at least 10 individuals that are living in the U.S., including intelligence officials and diplomats from Russia.
Well, we
um,
we could have got rid of some of these people that they're getting rid of now. They could have did that 4 years ago, 3 years
well,
ago.
sure, but who was in power?
Well, I mean,
Who was the president?
I'm just saying that what was considered important. So
Hmm.
now they're getting rid of them, and they know that they were all involved to some extent to some things with our elections, with our technology, cyber attacks. It's been documented already. You know what I'm saying? Not only here in our country, but they've been done all over the globe. You know what I'm saying? We had a list of names back in 2018, and we didn't do anything. There were a list of names of people that were involved. Some people were sent out of the country, but then many are just they're stayed and they're getting rid of now. What damage have they done between then and now? They knew this already. Other countries don't tolerate our garbage. Go to their country and act a fool if you want to. You get locked away and you never get seen again. We still fighting to get people out of prison over there, all over the world now, because of some stupid stuff they did.
Hmm.
It's like we are lenient, but we're not lenient with our own people.
Are we too lenient with the First Amendment?
No, I
No?
think
Okay.
let me continue with that. I don't think we're lenient, but I also think that First Amendment, your freedom of speech has consequences. May come with consequences. So that goes into not that you don't have the freedom of speech. Are you smart enough to handle with how you articulate what you have to say? If you're not going to be intelligent about it, if you're not going to have respectful conversation about things, your freedom of speech will come with consequences. Example: Jonathan Petlin. He's been on. I've been saying his name. I know how to spell his name good now. I've said his name so much this week. That's an example. No, really, really. He has the freedom of speech, but that freedom of speech came with consequences. He could have said everything he said in a better way. He could have said, "Hello, young man. I haven't seen you around here. I know there's been some issues with you in the neighborhood.
Hmm.
You don't
Wouldn't that
say,
also sound racist, though?
he said, I've heard there have been some issues with you in the neighborhood. He didn't allege anything specifically. He said, this is what I've heard.
Mhm.
Are there problems? That's nipping something in the bud. The young man could have said, no, man, I haven't had no issues in the neighborhood. But there was that young
And then what?
lady,
Just walks away, or
but there was that young lady across the street who was the one that was doing the complaining. She's the one who initiated all this, I think. The lady across the street, that's who he had an issue with at first. Something she said, and he came back and said something.
the one recording it?
No, the one across the street. There was a lady
Okay.
across the street behind them.
Okay.
And I think that's where it started. But the whole thing was that there could have been a different way that could have been handled.
Mhm.
If I see somebody in my neighborhood causing problems, or I give you a prime example. This is how I handled it. This is the honest truth. This is what happened in my neighborhood. Um, this was 2 weeks ago. My next door neighbor, who I'm very cool with, have a lot of problems going on right now. She's trying to deal with some things, and she's had Christmas tree ornaments up forever on her trees outside. The wind blew them off. You have lights, you have decorations, you have bulbs. I maintain my yard. I try to keep my yard up every day I cut, and I saw some broken Christmas balls in her yard.
Okay.
Now, I've heard people complain about this house, about
Hmm.
different things. I've heard people in the neighborhood complain. I have people inbox me complain on Facebook. I have different things that people complain, but I respect that's her property. So what did I do? I'm cutting my grass. A Christmas ball is in my yard that was stepped on. It was crushed up. I picked it up and threw it in the garbage. I saw her outside. I said, "Hey, what's going on with all the stuff in your yard? What's going on with all these Christmas balls in the yard?" I didn't make an accusation about who she was or what she was about, what was going on in her life. I just
Yeah.
said, "What's going on with all this stuff?" Because it's making my property look bad.
Hmm.
What did she say? She said, "You know what? I'm sorry, there's some things going on. It just wasn't basically it wasn't in the forefront of her mind. It wasn't
Right.
important to her." But what did she do? She cleaned it up.
Yeah.
She came
Okay.
and fixed it up. But the point I'm making is with that comment is that when you see something going on in your neighborhood and you feel something, I'm not saying you have to address every person. This guy was just
No,
walking.
it would
But
have been a
if there
better
were
way to address
but
it. Yeah.
if there were problems with this young man, if he has caused problems in the community, address the problem. Don't make it seem like he don't belong, because that wasn't the case. I didn't make my neighbor feel like she didn't belong there. I'm encouraged her in a way of saying, what's going, do you need help? If this guy is causing a problem with destruction or arguing or being disrespectful, let's address the problem that he
Mhm.
had, not the fact that he don't belong. Because Jonathan Petler said it the wrong way. He said everything the wrong way, and then he put hands on the boy. That wasn't right either. So there's a way of handling it, and we have to learn how to be able to articulate and have these conversations, regardless of your inside biases that are confusing and clouding your mind. If you can't learn how to say things right, you need to keep it moving, because you're going to make it worse. And he found out what worse can look like, where a grown man in the military get ran out of his own house.
Hmm.
That's like that. He don't look too strong.
Nope, not at all.
He didn't protect his house. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Hmm.
They would have been. He would have had every right if they would have came in his house to shoot every last one of them.
Hmm.
If they came in his house, I'm just giving you that example. He had that right to do that if they had came in his house and caused bodily harm to his family. But he instigated all that. He caused those problems. It wasn't the people. He caused those problems.
Yeah, it was him.
That's the consequences of your freedom of speech.
Hmm.
I'm sorry to go so long on it, but it was.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So my bottom line for this week, as we are ending our time, our scheduled time together, is just America, we need to check our hearts and minds, and we need
Yeah,
to
definitely.
look at ourselves. And I know we're frustrated. I know we're tired. I know we disagree. I know we have differences. Um, but let's try and treat each other with a little bit of grace and respect. Take responsibility. It just seems like the whole general sort of overall tenor of of the country is kind of like people are getting outside more, the restrictions are lessening, and now we're seeing these violent incidents more and more. And that saddens me. That saddens me. I don't want things to just be like they were. We're going to go back to what they were. We need to do better as a country. We need to do better. We need to be kinder. We need to just love each other more. Going back to, like you said, the second commandment, love each other as you love yourselves.
Yeah,
Just think about that. I mean, we have all these like incidents when we see it on camera. I know that everyone carries a cell phone. We're just seeing a lot more of it, okay, where people are disrespecting each other, pushing each other in the streets, getting in arguments in store. You don't want to wear a mask or this and that, whatever it may be. Um, I just want to see some more kindness and some more respect being given people, um, and some more love being shared. I
I
just
agree.
that's what I hope. That's what I hope. So I mean, and these gun violence things that are happening and shootings, um, it just saddens me. It just saddens me.
I feel that we need to. Well, no, I agree with you. Um, we need to really. Well, my bottom line for the day is that, as I've always said, like so many times before, is that we need to show more love to one another. We need to get out of our own box
Yes.
and step out of our box and see what the world is really like. I was listening to a. I don't know if you knew this or not, but there's so many people are looking to leave America right now. They're
Hmm.
looking to move out of our country because they're so frustrated with everything.
Yeah.
They are so frustrated, and people are looking to literally to move. So they travel. I travel a lot, but there are people that are specifically traveling to see where they might want to live,
Hmm.
and it's gotten to that point. Which for some people they might think that's a great thing. Go on, go leave if you want to leave. Get out, and it's reached to a tipping point for some people. Like
Hmm.
Stevie Wonder is moving to Ghana. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm getting the heck out of here, man.
Yeah.
He's up in his age. He's up in age. He's like, I gotta go. But
Hmm.
if we just step out of our box, because if you go to another country, developed countries, I'm not saying they don't have their problems either, but they don't have the problems we have. They don't have the problem to the extent that we have them. Whether it's guns, whether it's drugs, whatever it is,
Hmm.
America is so wrapped up into money. Money is destroying our country. The
Yeah.
greed of money.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
would do anything. People would do almost anything to keep power and money. Right now, like I said, we were talking about earlier. We briefly talked about it during our prep about these companies looking to put satellites for like broadband internet, global internet. All about money. Let's
Hmm.
talk about improving our world. Let's talk about helping our homeless people.
Yeah.
There's so many people that need our help right now, but we're focused on self greed and money.
Yeah.
And just step out your box. That's all I'm saying. I mean, every conversation we talk about, there's a perspective that we're bringing it from.
Yeah.
But every time I bring up a topic, every time I bring up a topic on Facebook or here, I've had a moment to sit back and look at the other perspective.
Hmm.
I
Good.
try my best to look at the other side because I feel that if a, I mean, even that officer that shot uh, Devon Dante, right? That lady, that officer.
Yeah.
Because remember, I said, he was wrong for breaking away and trying to run. He was wrong for the violation that he had on his record. I never defended him in those situations. Then I also looked at that officer. What was it? Did she already have this thought that maybe he could be violent? Is it because of the climate in our country that made her just get on guard? She saw that he had a felony,
Hmm.
that he had a what do you call it, a warrant, a misdemeanor warrant, but there was nothing that showed that at that moment he was violent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it from her side. This was she just on guard just in case and just overreacted. I mean, every situation. Darren Chauvin, I thought about it from his perspective. What was it in this man's life growing up
Yeah.
that made him
Derek Chauvin.
Derek? I'm sorry, Derek
I don't want
Chauvin.
to. I don't want to be on
I've been
the
calling him
same
Darren.
theme.
I've been calling him Darren, and you spell it the
I know,
same way you
I
spell
know.
it for so
I
long.
had to say something now because
Thank you for
his
correcting me.
name's not Darren. My name's Darren.
Okay, thank you for correcting that, and I
No,
will
no.
never make that mistake again. So for Derek Chauvin, what went on in that man's life for so long that made him think the way he think or to treat people the way he treat them?
Yeah.
Because this wasn't the first time. So I have looked at it from his perspective.
Mhm.
Did he come out with the intention of killing Floyd that day? I don't think so. But then when he got him there, he knew he had power over him.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So that power over him is what I felt was what pushed it. So anyway, when we step out of our box, we can see things from different perspectives. And I try to do that with every situation. Even when I'm talking to you when we're talking back and forth, I'm listening to you. I'm thinking about things from your perspective. I really do. And then I'll try to balance the two out. So if we can all just do that for this week, just
Yeah.
this week, when you see something and you have a very strong opinion about it, step out for a second. Even if you still got your opinion, so you could put your opinion versus the other side of the box together,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
you can have a really good analysis of what's really happening.
Yeah.
So with that's my bottom line, and I wish everybody a great week.
Yes, and thank you for your participation this week, everyone, and thank you for your support of the show. And we'll see you next time. Same place, same time.
I got the outro, or you got it?
You got it. You go. You go. My hands are off the keyboard.